My son didn't just stab me in the back. He looked me in the eye, smiled, and twisted the knife while asking for a loan. It wasn't a slow fade out. It was a week. 7 days to go from founder and CEO to security risk, do not admit. He thought because I was 58 and a grandmother, I was soft. He thought the $4.2 billion patent was his inheritance coming a little early. He forgot who taught him how to walk, how to talk, and unfortunately, how to lie. But he missed the lesson on consequences, and I was about to teach it to him in front of the entire venture capital world, live on stage. It started with a phone call on a Tuesday, exactly 5 days before the Helios launch gala. Mom, Michael said. His voice had that polished corporate sheen he'd adopted ever since I promoted him to VP of Operations. About the gala on Saturday. We've been running the numbers on the guest list. I stood in my kitchen in Chicago, staring at the snow piling up against the patio door. The calendar on the fridge was marked in red ink. Helios launch, Deck 31, my life's work. 20 years of chemistry, endless failures, and finally, the breakthrough that would change global energy forever. The numbers? I asked, keeping my voice flat. Yeah, it's tight. We've got senators coming, the energy secretary, major investors from Dubai. We need to prioritize seats for active stakeholders. Active stakeholders. I built the damn lab he was standing in. I see, I said. So the founder isn't an active stakeholder? Technically, since you stepped back to a consultant role last year, you're an advisor. And honestly, Mom, the PR team thinks your presence might confuse the narrative. We're pitching this as the next gen of energy. Young, dynamic, future focused. Having, well, the older generation there might send mixed signals. I'm 58, Michael, not 90. It's just optics, Mom. You know how the market is. We'll do a private dinner next week. Just us. Me, Jessica, and Chloe. We'll celebrate properly without the cameras. He hung up before I could argue. No, I love you. No, thanks for the billion-dollar company. Just a dial tone and the crushing weight of realization. I looked at the fridge. A single drawing was taped there, a crude crayon sketch of a robot holding a battery. For Grandma Sarah, the battery queen, it said in shaky letters. Chloe, my 7-year-old granddaughter. I hadn't seen her in 3 months. Every time I asked, she was busy with gymnastics or at a sleepover. The house was silent, the kind of silence that screams at you. But here's the thing Michael didn't know. He thought I was just a retired chemist gardening in the suburbs. He forgot that I didn't just invent the battery, I wrote the encryption for the manufacturing interface. I wasn't obsolete, and I sure as hell wasn't going to stay home. 3 years ago, my husband David died of a sudden aneurysm. He was the soft one, the peacekeeper. I was the iron. When he died, Michael swooped in. He was 32 with an MBA and a lot of debt he tried to hide. He begged to help run the company, Apex Energy. I can take the load off you, Mom, he'd said at the funeral, holding my hand. Dad would want you to rest. I was grieving. I was tired. I let him in. For the first year, it was fine. Then came the modernization. He moved my office to the basement. He cut my R&D budget. He hired his fraternity brothers as consultants. Then, 6 months ago, he suggested I step back to let the youth movement take over. I signed the papers because I wanted to trust him, because he was my son. Big mistake. I walked into my home office and booted up my private server. I still had backdoor access to the company mainframe, something I set up years ago as a failsafe against corporate espionage. I hadn't used it in months. I logged in. What I found made my blood run cold. There were emails, hundreds of them, between Michael and a firm called Vanguard Capital. Subject, Project Titan acquisition from Michael Fawchas Apex to J. Sterling Vanguard. The old IP is legally murky, but the new Titan architecture is 100% mine. We've stripped Sarah's name from the patent filing. She's out. As soon as the IPO hits on the 31st, we sign the exclusivity deal. She gets nothing. The consulting contract has a loophole for non-contributing advisors. She's gone. He wasn't just uninviting me to a party, he was stealing the Helios solid-state battery, my invention, rebranding it as Titan, and selling the company out from under me. The loophole meant my 40% equity would be diluted to zero upon the sale. He was going to sell my life's work for $4.2 billion and leave me with a pension and a pat on the head. I sat back, my hands trembling, not from fear, from rage. David always said, "Sarah, you have a temper like a welder's torch." He was right. I picked up the phone and called my lawyer, Robert. Robert, wake up. We're not filing a lawsuit. That takes too long. We're going to war. The next 3 days were a blur of caffeine and code. I met Robert in a diner on the outskirts of the city. He looked nervous. Sarah, if Michael has board approval, this is going to be messy. He's the CEO. He has the authority to restructure. He doesn't have the authority to claim authorship of a patent he can't even spell, I snapped. I need you to prepare an injunction, but don't file it yet. I want it ready for 12:01 a.m. January 1st. Why wait? Because if I stop him now, he claims it's a misunderstanding. He settles, he spins it. I need him to commit. I need him to stand on that stage and lie to the world. Then I pull the rug. I spent the nights digging through the Apex servers. I found the schematics for Titan. It was a copy-paste of Helios with one difference. He had removed the thermal regulation safety protocols to make it cheaper to manufacture. My stomach churned. Without those protocols, the battery was unstable. It wouldn't just fail, it would explode. He was rushing a bomb to market to secure his payout. This wasn't just theft anymore, it was criminal negligence. On Thursday, I received a text from Jessica, Michael's wife. Sarah, I'm so sorry about the gala. Michael says it's strictly business. We miss you. Chloe made you a card. I'll mail it. I didn't reply. I couldn't. If I engaged, I'd scream. Instead, I drove to Chloe's school. I parked across the street, just watching. At 3 p.m., she walked out, holding Michael's hand. She looked sad. He was on his phone, ignoring her, dragging her toward his Porsche. She looked back toward the street as if looking for me. It broke me. He was erasing me from her life, too. That night, I initiated the dead hand. See, when I wrote the code for the battery's management system, I embedded a signature, a digital watermark hidden in the kernel. It was based on the first lullaby I ever sang to Michael. If that code was tampered with, say, by removing thermal protocols, the system would flag a critical error, but only if a specific command was sent. I prepped the command. New Year's Eve, the gala, the Drake Hotel in Chicago was glowing. Limos lined the block. Security was tight private contractors Michael had hired specifically to keep riffraff out. Riffraff meant me. I didn't take a limo. I took a cab to the service entrance. I wasn't wearing a gown. I was wearing a tailored black suit, sharp as a razor. I had an ID badge from 1999, my original founder badge. It shouldn't have worked. But the old security guard, Miller, was still there at the loading dock. Dr. Sarah? Miller's eyes went wide. Mr. Michael said you weren't coming, said you were sick. I made a miraculous recovery, Miller, I said, slipping him a $100 bill. I need access to the AV booth. Miller looked at the bill, then at me. He hated Michael. Everyone who actually worked for a living hated Michael. Freight elevators open, Doc. Give him hell. I took the elevator up to the mezzanine. Below, the ballroom was a sea of tuxedos and diamonds. Champagne flowed. A giant screen displayed the logo, Titan. The future is here. I saw Michael. He was center stage, holding a glass of scotch, laughing with the Dubai investors. Jessica stood next to him, looking stiff. Chloe wasn't there. Good. She shouldn't see this. I slipped into the AV booth. The technicians were young kids, probably interns. Who are you? One asked. I'm the surprise guest, I said, and I'm taking over the feed in 5 minutes. We can't let you do that. I placed my phone on the console. This phone is connected to the Department of Energy's Safety Oversight Server. In exactly 4 minutes, it will auto-send a report detailing the removal of thermal safety protocols in the Titan battery. That report will trigger an immediate federal investigation and a freeze on Apex's assets, unless you let me plug in. The kid gulped. You're Sarah Vance? Yes, now hand me the mic. Down on the stage, the lights dimmed. A hush fell over the crowd. Spotlight on Michael. Ladies and gentlemen, Michael boomed, his charisma turned up to 11. Tonight, we don't just launch a product, we launch a legacy. My father started this company with a dream. I am finishing it with a revolution. The Titan battery is the first fully stable solid-state energy source in history, authored, engineered, and delivered by my team. The crowd applauded. He soaked it in. We have secured $4.2 billion in contracts, he continued. Apex Energy is now the most valuable technology firm in the Midwest, and we did it by shedding the weight of the past. That was my cue. I didn't yell. I just overrode the audio system. The past has a way of catching up, Michael. My voice echoed through the ballroom, crisp and amplified. Michael froze. He looked around, confused. The crowd murmured. Who said that? Cut the mic, Michael shouted, his composure cracking instantly. You can't cut the truth, I said. The giant screen behind him flickered. The Titan logo dissolved. In its place, a video feed appeared. It was me, standing in the booth, looking down at him like a hawk. Mom? He whispered. The microphone caught it. Hello, Michael, I said. You forgot to mention one small detail in your pitch. The Titan isn't yours. Security, Michael screamed, pointing at the booth. Get her out of there. She's senile. She's off her meds. I'm not senile, I said calmly. I'm the patent holder. The screen changed again. It showed the schematics, side by side, Helios versus Titan. Red lines highlighted the missing safety code. What you're looking at, I addressed the crowd, is the removal of the thermal regulation kernel. Michael deleted it to save 12% on manufacturing costs. He turned a revolutionary battery into an incendiary device. Gasps ripple through the room. The investors from Dubai stepped back from Michael as if he were contagious. That's a lie, Michael yelled, sweat glistening on his forehead. She's trying to sabotage the IPO. She's jealous. Jealous? I laughed. It was a cold sound. I built this company while you were still failing algebra, but here's the proof. I hit the command key. On the screen, the code scrolled, and then the signature appeared. Deep in the core architecture of the Titan software, a line of text glowed green. Me as a roman. Coded by Sarah Vance for Chloe, my little spark. That signature is hard-coded into the hardware manufacturing process, I said. You copied the design, Michael, but you couldn't copy the soul of the machine because you don't understand how it works. You're not an engineer, you're a thief. Michael stood there, mouth open, looking small. The silence in the room was absolute. Then his phone buzzed, then Jessica's, then everyone's. That buzz, I said, is the notification that the Federal Trade Commission and the SEC have just received a full dossier of your emails conspiring to defraud the initial shareholders, specifically me. Michael looked at his phone. He turned pale. You ruined us, he croaked. No, Michael, I said, leaning into the mic. I saved the company because as of 2 minutes ago, I exercised my majority shareholder clause for gross executive misconduct and dissolved the board. I walked out of the booth and stood on the balcony looking down at him. You're fired. The aftermath wasn't a party, it was an evacuation. Security didn't come for me, they came for Michael. The SEC doesn't mess around with $4 billion fraud. He was escorted out the side door, shielding his face from the paparazzi that had swarmed the entrance. I walked down the grand staircase. The room parted for me like the Red Sea. Jessica was standing by the buffet table, crying. She looked at me, terrified. Sarah, I didn't know, she sobbed. I swear, I didn't know about the safety protocols. I looked at her. She was weak, but she wasn't malicious. Where is Chloe? I asked. She's with the nanny at the hotel upstairs. Go get her. Bring her to my car. Sarah, please. Go get her, Jessica. Or do you want to explain to the feds why you signed the co-signatory papers on Michael's shell accounts? She ran. 2 months later. I sat in the corner office of Apex Energy, my office, restored to the top floor. The Titan branding was in the trash. Helios was back on track with the safety protocols restored. The stock had dipped, panicked, and then rallied when the market realized the battery queen was back at the helm. Michael was awaiting trial. He was facing 10 to 15 years for securities fraud and criminal negligence. He called me once from a holding cell. Why didn't you just settle? He asked. He sounded broken. We could have worked something out. You tried to erase me, Michael, I said. You can't negotiate with someone who doesn't exist. I'm your son. And that's the only reason I'm paying for your defense attorney, a good one. But you're going to prison, Michael. You need to learn that you can't shortcut your way to a legacy. I hung up. There was a knock on the door. Come in, I said. The door opened and Chloe ran in. She was wearing a backpack and a huge grin. Jessica followed, looking tired but grateful. I had given Jessica a job in HR entry level, strictly monitored so she could support Chloe while Michael was away. Grandma, Chloe shouted, slamming a piece of paper onto my mahogany desk. What's this? I asked, picking it up. It was a new drawing, a robot, but this time it had a crown. Grandma and me building the future, it said. I made a new design, Chloe said seriously, for the robot's battery. It needs more solar panels. I pulled her onto my lap. She smelled like strawberry shampoo and innocence. Solar panels, huh? I asked. I'm smart. Show me where they go. She pointed, explaining her logic with the confidence of a CEO. I looked out the window at the Chicago skyline. I had lost a son, effectively. I had nearly lost my empire, but I had saved the work. And looking at Chloe, I knew the real legacy wasn't the money or the patent. It was making sure the next generation knew the difference between building something and stealing it. You know, I whispered to Chloe, I think we have a spot for a junior engineer. She beamed. I wasn't obsolete. I was just getting started. And God help anyone who tried to get in our way again.